A noun, a preposition, an adjective? Well, I think a word to describe the thing that happens when we silently affect and are affected by another, no matter the distance, deserves to have a life as both a noun and a verb. And so, allow me to introduce you to the word within. A brain activity that occurs as a result of our entanglement with another. An activity that's always available, that's there for the taking in the absence of distractions, that was alive and well in the hospice care center room when Gisela and her family were together, when they were withing, that when uninterrupted, silently affected some kind of change in the brains, and maybe we could say in the hearts of her children when they were withing. And that was available to me on that late September morning when Gisela seemed, at every other level, to be losing the ability to engage in any other activity at all. And that, of course, is where it comes to you. Whether you find yourselves at the bedside or kitchen table of a family member, friend, or stranger who faces the end of life, whether you are behind the scenes writing checks or stuffing envelopes on behalf of this organization, or whether you're on the front lines advocating for compassionate care at the end of life, know that it is through your presence, your openness, your allowance for the articulation of joy, ambivalence, or the terrible truths that may surface at the end of life, or through your attentive silence in the face of another's suffering. It is through your presence that you allow for attention to be given to the entanglement, the silent withing that occurs between and among all of us. If you doubt, as many of us can and do from time to time, whether you're actually doing anything when you're with another who is encountering the unknown, I hope you might remember the story of Gisela and of the transformations that took place when she was witnessed by and truly with those around her. And I hope that when you wonder if those moments of being truly connected to another are as real as they feel, or if that's just your imagination, I hope that at those times you might think of the images of those many living brains in connection with one another in the basement of the University of Washington, showing us that we are entangled, by all accounts affecting one another, perhaps even at a distance, in a way that is at once mysterious and entirely ordinary. I hope you will know then that there is something to be done. There is withing to be done with our clients, our patients, with our families, and our communities, and even with ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Hope. I think it was the withing that gave you the cold, so. I was at her house at a meeting, and when I went home, I took that one swallow where you get a cold, and I went, oh. And then I talked to her, and she had, hi, what did you do? And I went, uh-oh, did you get a cold? I don't know how that happened. So we have been very busy at End of Life Washington since we last met. In 2016, our 45 volunteer client advisors counseled 405 clients and their families throughout Washington State and supported 163 clients as they ingested life-ending medication. This constitutes 85% of the total Washington residents who availed themselves of the Death with Dignity Act in this past year. So far in 2017, our VCAs have counseled 302 clients and their families and have assisted 104 clients as they ingested life-ending medication. In the past year, we have added 140 new physicians to our active participation roster. Our Speakers Bureau is comprised of 8 active participants and 4 specialists who address targeted audiences. In the past 2 years, we have delivered 258 presentations, seminars, workshops, and tabling events in 51 different Washington locations. And in the past year, we have addressed over 1,920 people and distributed over 3,600 packets of end-of-life Washington information and materials. As the Executive Director, Community Outreach and Education is a significant part of my job. I have personally visited and made presentations to the administration and support staff of 22 of Washington's 53 hospice organizations. And on Tuesday, I'll have the pleasure of presenting a session at Washington State Hospice and Palliative Care Organization's annual conference entitled Overcoming Barriers, How End-of-Life Washington Hospice and Palliative Care Can Better Cooperate. And this is part of our ongoing efforts to work more closely with Washington State hospices. My Speaking Bureau colleagues and I spoke to 17 different medical groups throughout the state. My personal favorite was the opportunity to address over 200 oncology nurses at the Puget Sound Oncology Nursing Symposium. The positive energy and support for Death with Dignity in that room was palpable. Since we've last convened, End-of-Life Washington has welcomed 2 members to our intrepid staff of 4. Lindsay Sawyer is our new office manager. Where is Lindsay? Want to raise your hand? There she is. You met her. She's that amazingly kind and competent voice that answers the phone when you call us. And Jolene McCreary is our new client support director. Jolene. And both Lindsay and Jolene have brought their impressive skill sets to bear on our work, and they have added significantly to the rapidity of response and the caliber of care with which we meet the needs of our clients. Speaking of impressive skill sets, our development director, Kathy Sparkman, from whom you will hear shortly, not only met, but actually exceeded her annual stretch goal of $525,000 this year. And she did it all the while undergoing 2 hip replacements and spending over 3 months in a hospital bed and a wheelchair. You give Kathy a wireless connection and a cell phone and watch out. And we can't wait to see what she's going to accomplish now that she's back up and running. The End-of-Life Washington Board has been working hard too. At our annual strategic planning retreat, they identified and have already begun work on 6 strategic pillars. Optimize data and metrics to set goals and measure progress. Expand diversity of volunteers. Ensure access to Death with Dignity throughout the state with a special emphasis on Eastern Washington. Achieve financial security, more about that from Kathy in a moment. Expand community outreach, and support and expand the Volunteer Client Advisor Program. Just this past week, board members Terry Barnett, Bob Free, and Rob Miller put the final touches on a very important addition to the arsenal advanced planning documents that End-of-Life Washington has created over the years. Their instructions about oral feeding and drinking allows folks to specify their wishes with regards to being fed and hydrated in the event of irreversible dementia. We have thoroughly vetted this document with authorities throughout the nation, and it will be promoted by Kaiser Health News in the coming weeks. If you're interested in taking a look at it, you can access it in our document library on our website. All of these metrics, as our board likes to refer to them, Jordan, are important data points to share with you, our generous donors and supporters. That said, it is the heartfelt messages like the one I'm about to read to you that was written to one of our VCAs that underpin our work here at End-of-Life Washington. Hi, insert VCA name here. It could easily be any one of the 45 dedicated folks who give so much to our organization. I meant to write to you earlier to thank you so much for the assistance you gave our sister and our family on Thursday. Not only did you guide us professionally through the steps, but you did it with such a kind, gentle, and compassionate way that we all felt assured and comforted by it. Our family will always remember you being with us during that very intimate time with our sister. Your warm, calm manner was so comfortable and competent that it gave us complete confidence in the process. You were truly wonderful. and we appreciate you tremendously. We felt so fortunate to have you right there with our sister as she died with dignity, just as she wished. You shared a special time with us and almost felt like family. I can't stress enough what a wonderful job you did. On behalf of our entire family, I thank you sincerely. Take care. And now I'd like to welcome our Development Director, Kathy Sparkman, to speak to you about her work and how you can join us in our efforts. Kathy.
Thank you. As you can see, it's one of my first days without my cane. I did bring it, and if I need to use the cane on you, I am happy to do that. But thank you for those kind words. I'll have to say, being able to still be a part of my work while I was in a rehab bed kind of saved my life, because it's rather boring not being able to do anything but hop on one foot and not walk on the other, and the butt climb up and down the stairs to my house when I finally got home was certainly an interesting experience. Lindsay helped me a couple of times, so anyway, I'm happy to be here on my own 2 feet. If you have ever had the opportunity to take a look at our annual report or our 990, you know that it takes $500,000 a year for End of Life Washington to operate. It's not a secret, it's public information. And some would ask, only $500,000 a year to do all of the things that you do? You just heard all the things that we do. Well, yes, it just takes $500,000 a year. And that $500,000, which might not seem like a huge number, can seem very daunting on July 1st, when we basically start from zero, which is the beginning of our fiscal year. The fact of the situation is that we cannot do the work that we do without the support of all of you. 90% of our support comes from individual donors. Only 10% comes from a couple of progressive foundations. And 1,200 of you stepped up last year to help us make that $500,000 budget. Now, as the development director, I might be considered a necessary unpleasantness. Because when you hear from me, I'm asking for money, or I'm asking for something else from you to help us. But today I am here to just give you some really good news. First of all, I am pleased to announce that for the second year in a row, we have a challenge match fund. That means your gift, whatever it is, will count for double through the end of the year towards our goal. We right now have $50,000 from 2 very supportive individuals who always step up when we ask. And we also have a very possible another $25,000, which would bring us to $75,000. And we have an ask out for another $25,000. So there's a real possibility that we could have $100,000 as a challenge match fund for the end of the year giving. And that is pretty incredible, because I don't know that we have been able to do that in the past. That means that if we could match that $100,000, we would have $200,000 by the end of the year, and that would bring us very close to halfway or more of where we need to be this year with that $500,000 budget. So you know how this works. $5 becomes 10, $100 becomes 200, 1,000 becomes 2,000, 5,000 becomes 10,000, and we can go on and on. And your gift helps to make Death with Dignity, the Death with Dignity law, available to you, to someone close to you, and almost more importantly, someone you might not even know. The $500,000 makes sure that anybody who needs the law gets our services for free. We never charge for any of our services. Some folks, when they call us, ask how much we charge, and we charge nothing. Some of those same folks have problems even affording the medication, but they don't have to pay us for anything that our dedicated volunteer advisors offer so compassionately and free. That peace of mind to those folks comes from you. So I hope that you will continue to help us. And here's some more good news. So consider giving us some appreciated stock. Has anybody noticed the stock market recently? There should be some appreciated stock out there. And you can donate to us appreciated stock. You don't have to take the capital gains. You get the full deduction for the fair market value, and we get the full value of the stocks. You can also, if you're 70 and a half, make a qualified charitable distribution from your IRA. And if you need any help with that, I can help you. And now, in addition to taking credit cards, which cost either you or us a fee, we can actually draft your bank account, which doesn't cost anything to anyone. So we haven't been able to do that in the past, so I think that's very good news. So I just want to say, if you have any questions about that, please give me a call. I'll walk you through it. We call these painless ways to support End of Life Washington, or nearly. Where's my graphic artist? Nearly painless ways. So we'll be staying in touch with all the good things that you help support us. Thank you in advance for your support. And now I have the great pleasure to introduce you to our 2017-18 Board of Directors President, Jordan Passementier. That is not a Southern name. Jordan has a very strong background in this important work, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. Please welcome Jordan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with us to discuss these very important issues. It's great to see you all here. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I have the much more fun experience to present some awards to our very special volunteers. So a little bit about me. I am, if you've read the newsletter, you've got a teaser, but I'll tell you a little bit more. I'm from California before Washington, and in California I had the opportunity to work in the sister organization there before the law there was passed. So I'm sort of in an interesting position. I got to see what both sides of this world look like, before the law, after the law. And before the law in California, what you saw was a chilling effect. People weren't talking. Physicians and pharmacists were loath to enter the discussion surrounding death with dignity. And we did a lot of work to build up into what eventually became the law in the books in the state. We ran high school essay competitions. We worked with the legislature to improve the right to know for patients who were inquiring about their end-of-life options. We ran advanced directive workshops, and the list goes on and on. Here in Washington State, when I moved a couple years back, and I've been serving on the board since then, I got to see what the world looked like on the other side, where the law has been in place for a number of years. And what I don't see here so much that I saw there is, in California, there's this chilling effect, where you're afraid to enter the conversation. Here, well, there's protection under the law, and it's not so much a chilling effect, but the stigma around discussing it remains, and we still have some very challenging issues to address. Access to willing pharmacists and physicians remains a challenge. Figuring out how to service and educate those who live across the Cascades in different populations in our state, all these things remain significant and near and dear to the attention of the board and the volunteers. So as your new president, these are some of the issues that we've been chewing on at our board meetings, and I'm honored to help usher forward End of Life Washington's revised mission, which is very reflective of the work we have been doing in the past, to uphold your right to the full range of end-of-life choices, including death with dignity, through advocacy, education, and support. That's our mission in order to achieve our vision, a world where people understand their end-of-life choices and can die on their own terms without barriers. That is the work that we have set before us for this coming year. That is the work that I'm sure we will be at in the years to come. I'm so honored that all of you are willing to hear it and participate with us. And I look forward to working with each of you as we move forward to make our last days the best days we can make them, and on our own terms. Now I get to switch gears and do the fun part. I will be going through 3 awards. And these are very special awards, and they are for certain volunteers who've gone above and beyond, and this is our chance to recognize them publicly. The 3 awards are the Gretchen DeRoche Award for Leadership in Client Support, the Midge Levy Award for Leadership in Educational Outreach, and then finally the Dr. Tom Preston Award for Leadership in Medical Support. So let's start at the top. The Gretchen DeRoche Award this year goes to a volunteer who has been involved as a volunteer client advisor for the last 5 years, literally goes out of his way to service those in need across our state, traveling to the ocean shores, the Tri-Cities, and everywhere in between, even though he's stationed in Tacoma. He also serves as a speaker for End of Life Washington, and generously shares his talents, honed as digital editor. Once for the USA Today, he now designs our newsletters, annual reports, invitations. He shares his expertise with graphic design and layout. And importantly, he has a legacy. His mother, Mary Watson, is the creator of the famous Wonder Files. And so I'd like to congratulate Chris Frutrich in this year receiving the Gretchen DeRoche Award. Please join me.
I do want to say thank you very much to the group, whoever decided this was a good idea. I also want to say that yeah, what you see up here is kind of a normal, if somewhat bulky guy, but what runs up here is a Frankensteinian collection of things that I have been received from all those other volunteers out there. Rob's passion, the people that I listen to at the meetings every second Monday, Joe and Bill and on and on. My partners down in the South End, Sally and Sandra, and my pal in Tacoma, Daisy, and of course the woman I refer to as the angel, Dr. Terry Law, who is, I mean, she's the top of the list. I'm really pleased this is the Gretchen DeRoche Award, because Gretchen was the one who took this individual who really didn't know anything about end of life except the fact that it does in fact end. And I worked with Gretchen, I worked with Nancy, and Arlene was kind enough at one point to answer the telephone when I was actually with a customer or a client and I didn't know what to say. This whole thing is a collection of all of those people out there that I work with. And so anybody who would like a flower out of this, you deserve it as much as I do. So thank you all very much.
The next award is the Midge Levy Award for Leadership in Educational Outreach. And this one goes to a volunteer who's demonstrated commitment to end-of-life choice and the Death with Dignity law, going all the way back to the campaign that Booth Gardner ran under Initiative 1000. She's also one of our speakers. In fact, she came here today just after giving a presentation, and what's really cool about today and her relationship with this organization is this is her 10-year anniversary to the day of having joined us. Like Chris, she's willing to travel great distances in this state, and she ensures that folks know her work as well as their rights under the law. She's a full-service volunteer, so when she goes to give these presentations, not only does she speak with eloquence, but she stuffs the packets herself as needed. So without further ado, please let me congratulate Nancy Najelski for this year's recipient of the Great President Award.
I love the name on this. Where is Mitch? Where there she is. Thank you that your name. Truly, it was 10 years ago this month that I first spoke to Mitch on the phone and talked to Arlene and the meeting and Rob and Chad and many others and begged this organization to let me be a part of it. And I don't know if you know that this Tuesday, for the first time, I'm going to be speaking at the Governor Booth Gardner Parkinson's Cancer Center.
Nancy's going back to volunteering. Thanks, Nancy. The last award that I have the honor to present is the Dr. Tom Preston Award for leadership and medical support. And this one goes to someone who's served as a volunteer medical advisor for the last 6 years, who's graciously overseen all of the client and volunteer support needs for the entire Olympic Peninsula, all the way to the southern border of the state. He has personally brought in a significant number of physicians who are willing to prescribe life-ending medicine under the law when called upon to do so. And he demonstrates his support for End-of-Life Washington in so many ways. Through excellent relationship building between the doctors and the VCAs, to take time to effectively follow through with clients and cases, giving mindful support to the volunteers who are involved. And then lastly, he listens. He has an empathetic ear and is always available to debrief and to troubleshoot with the VCAs who work under his guidance. He always enjoys getting to know people, and he's a renowned storyteller. And so I'd like to congratulate Dr. Joe Jack Davis for his work and the recipient of this year's Dr. Tom Preston Award. He's on vacation, which is fantastic. So I'm going to ask Sally to receive the award in his absence. Thank you.
And I won't tell a story because he does it way better than us, so I will make sure Joe gets that.
Thank you so much for joining me. One more round of applause for our fantastic volunteers.
Thank you. So today we recognize 3 people who have worked very hard and made a significant difference in the challenge that End-of-Life Washington is committed to meeting. And for them and for their work, we are truly grateful. But as the African proverb asserts, and as we all know, it takes a village. And our End-of-Life Washington annual meeting is our formal gathering of our village elders. Let me show you what I mean. Please stand and remain standing if you worked for Death with Dignity in Washington State long before there was Death with Dignity. That is, if you served with the Hemlock Society of Washington, or Compassion in Dying, or End of Life Choices. Please stand. Okay. Please stand, and if you're already standing, raise your hand. You can lower it. You have to hold it the whole time. That gets tiresome. But please stand, and if you're already standing, please raise your hand. If you worked on Initiative 119 in 1991, or on Initiative 1000 in 2008. Please stand if you are a member of the End-of-Life Washington staff, its client support director, its development director, or its office manager. Please stand or raise your hand if you are a former end-of-life Washington staff member, Compassion and Choices of Washington staff member? Please stand, raise your hand, if you are a former board member of End of Life Washington. Okay. Please stand if you are a current board member of End of Life Washington. Please stand if you served or are currently serving as one of our 45 volunteer client advisors, if you are a VCA. Please stand if you are a volunteer medical advisor, or raise your hand. Please stand if you are a member of the End of Life Washington Speakers Bureau. Please stand if you are an End of Life Washington volunteer who comes into the office to help us create packets or wonder files. And I'd like you to stand, please. Unless that's a problem. I do understand that can be. I know Kathy quite well. Please stand or raise your hand if you have responded to our need and donated to End of Life Washington. Please stand or raise your hand if you have ever known or known of someone who has died poorly, an extended difficult death that was painful to witness and surely painful to endure. Please stand if you are aware of the fact that you too will most likely die someday. And now, if you are still seated, I'd like you to stay seated because I really want to meet you. But for the rest of us, before you go, please turn to someone standing near you, introduce yourself, and thank him or her for their good work and their hard work and for being a reliable member of the End of Life Washington Village. Remember, we are all in this together. Thank you for being here.